As amazing as Batman is and always has been, he's not quite enough to always save DC from, honestly, the catastrophes that we've seen in the extended universe, and even with some of the comic books lately, with a lot of recent issues and titles and spin-offs and so on and so forth. It seems like they're always a step behind Marvel. Even in phase 4, when Marvel is just at its most rock bottom right now, the MCU, the DC EU still can't keep up. But let's go ahead and dive into the video. Now, I am saying this as someone who actually prefers DC to Marvel as a whole, okay? So don't come at me, Snyder fans. But I can objectively take a step back and acknowledge, hey, there's some flaws here, even in things that I enjoy. So David Zaslav says rebuilding DC and Warner Brothers is more challenging than we thought. We have an awful lot to do and an awful lot to undo, he says. Let's go ahead and dive into this article from Bounding Into Comics, and maybe we can speculate a little bit on what they can do to make things better, and if we even have hope at all for DC as a whole. I've made videos about some things. Notably, I think especially now, as much as a lot of people want to hate on the DCEU, the extended universe, their movies, I feel like the state of the comics are worse at this point, because I feel like the comics are just, they have constantly been trying to virtue signal. They have constantly been trying to insert all these woke stuff into it. Marvel has done the same, and yeah, that we're getting a woke washing over substance here, and it is making them suffer. And for some reason, though, DC just can't bounce back or can't garner the same interest that Marvel does, even if they're both putting out crap. But okay, let's just dive into the video. Warner Discovery CEO David Zaslav is being brutally honest about what it's like to restructure Warner Brothers, and it's no easy task. As it turns out, he inherited a bigger mess than he thought he would. Now, some of this isn't his fault or their fault or anything. Now, when I say that, I mean, let's look at like the controversy surrounding Aquaman 2 with Mara in it because of Amber Heard. So a lot of people are like, hey, I can't watch if she's in it. I'm not going to watch if she's in it. So there's already that, that's been a difficulty for them. And let's like not even get started on Ezra Miller. It's just Murphy's Law in full effect with DC. When it comes to the DC Extended Universe, especially, like, that's just where it's been. I have more opinions, but let me read more and then I'll share them. The studio, DC, the streaming offerings at HBO Max, all of its challenge, he sums up with a quote from Kevin Costner on Yellowstone. We have an awful lot to do and an awful lot to undo, Zaslav said during a keynote conversation at the RBC Media Conference, as reported by Deadline. It was much more challenging than we thought. You opened up the closet. Things fell out. Ezra fell out. We are fixing them. Some assets are better than we thought at the core. The talent is better than we thought. However, the tenacious executive feels up to the challenge. In fact, he welcomes it. But there was a lot that was unexpectedly worse than we thought, he continued. For me, I don't want to buy a company that is really well run. It's hard to make it better. So every day we open a closet and something comes out. Lots of skeletons. Yeah, I don't want to buy a company that's doing well. Yeah, okay, sure. HBO Max is the most cluttered closet, bursting at the seams from mismanagement for the past 2 years and dubbed irrational by the executive. Content, including major releases available in 2021, netted subscribers who didn't stay for long. Right now, We can get 30 million people with Euphoria, but they can come on for 2 months, watch Euphoria, and then leave. Zaslav added, do we want to create incentives for people to be there? There are a lot of companies that have a business where the majority of people are there for the year. According to its numbers, HBO paid $2.5 billion for content in 2019, and that's exactly how much they made that year. Last year, they spent almost $7 billion, losing $3 billion. That's a lot to lose. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that, he said, making note of all those direct-to-streaming movies released last year, right on top of the service. Zaslav continued, our whole library went on HBO Max. We weren't selling any of it, but it was all there. And most of it was not being watched or adding subscribers. We looked and we said, most of that is not being watched, or we don't think anyone is subscribing because of this. We could sell it non-exclusively to someone else, he explained, realizing the same time the option of taking matters into their own hands is still in play. That would entail creating their own free service. Okay. But Zaslav reminded everybody that those services from Tubi to Pluto are actually ad-based. We can create a Tubi and a Pluto, but instead of buying content for someone else to populate our AVOD, advanced, I don't know what that stands for. Our library of property, I don't know. We can create the content ourselves, he said. The trouble is global market factors pinch those apps' operations. The ad market is very weak right now. Europe is in a better position than the United States. Still, advertisers there are waiting to see how things play out for the economy, inflation, interest rates, and consumer spending as they creep out of COVID. Between HBO, HBO Max, and Discovery Plus, WBD tallies 94.9 million direct-to-consumer subscribers as of the third quarter. In 2023, they will have just one service to worry about. Plans are in place to combine HBO Max and Discovery Plus into one entity with potential tiers, including a free entry-level one. Consolidation being fundamental, new releases probably won't be part of any packages. Zaslav will look to other more traditional avenues of making money in show business, mainly back at the theaters selling tickets. You love to see that. Let's go back to the theaters. This direct to streaming thing, you know, it's just, there's just something fun about watching in the theaters when you're really excited for something and hey, this is the only place you can watch it at first. There's just something appealing about that. All right, so he believes theatrical windows are still the way to go. I've seen the data, Zaslav said. A movie that opens in theaters performs 5 times as well as when it goes directly to streaming. The economic return when you open something in the theater. This claim is bolstered by the unexpected theatrical earnings of Top Gun Maverick this year. The seasoned exec was critical of dropping films on streaming, considering the tactic just a way to drive subscribers to drive and share price, and comparing it to the .com bubble of 30 years ago. Subscribers today are like clicks in the 90s. People were running around buying companies and aggregating clicks, he said. At theaters and the box office is where Zaslav wants his undervalued asset to compete with Marvel, which he praised Disney for handling. He brought James Gunn on board and promoted Peter Safran to implement their Bible for DC as a connected universe to rival Marvel's. Growth with a renewed focus on Superman and to drive the heck out of DC was promised. Now, I will say, them bringing back Henry Cavill as Superman, that was definitely a really big power move, right move to do. It's time that ideally Marvel and DC both, but if they really want to start, getting their momentum back up, I think stop with all the virtue signaling, stop with all the wokeness, stop with all the, hey, let's make this character gay, let's make this character a girl now, let's do this, let's do that, oh look, our first non-binary character, okay, we're just gonna play along with this game. So instead of that, focus on just giving people what we want. We want to see superheroes kicking butt. That's what we want to see. Period. Bring it back. Also, all of these subscription services, especially with HBO Max and Discovery Plus being separate, who Who is going to be subscribing to 80 million different subscription services? You know, the appeal of Netflix before, we all know this, was, oh, okay, you can watch everything on this and it's a lot more affordable than cable. Well, now there's so many streaming services that when you add it all up, you're paying more than you would for cable. So it's just not sustainable. I think DC as a whole, they've got so much potential with so many of their properties. I mean, Batman, dude. Batman is the best, the absolute best in comicdom. I don't care what anyone says. Now, the Batman I really liked. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I have very little complaints with the Batman, the Batman movie. It was really stupendous. But I will say, like, things like Black Adam, for example. Let's look at that. That had so much potential. It's so frustrating because, like, I knew when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this looks pretty fun. That's what I want to see in a superhero movie. I want to see fun. I want to see explosions. I want to see amazing fight scenes, cool stuff. That's what I want to see. And I felt like, oh, okay, that's what Black Adam looked like to me. And I was excited to watch it. And then when I did watch it, I was pleasantly surprised in a lot of ways that that it wasn't just so flooded with all this woke stuff. There might be like a little bit of hints of it here and there, but honestly, I think the reason why woke people didn't like it is because the underlying message with Black Adam was about unity. It was a very wholesome message. And so you saw the team work well together. You saw, like, Dr. Fate, who was the white guy. He was able to be a good guy in the movie and really, like, come in clutch, man. And so this was a movie where you had that diverse cast and everybody worked together and nobody was, like, putting each other down or nobody was playing victim or anything like that. So that was really cool to see that. It was really fun. Granted, the actual story itself was pretty dreadful and that's what really held it back. But the actual, fight scenes, the underlying message behind it, I thought was great. So, hey, there's a little glimmer of hope there, but ultimately, if you want to succeed, give fans what they want. When you have a property, when you're holding on, especially a compilation of properties that already has a huge existing fan base, it's like, how do you mess this up? You already got people, you already got the appeal. You already got people wanting and waiting for something. How do you mess that up? Just give the fans what they want. Easy. Boom, bam, thank you, bam. All right, so anyway, there you have it for today's video. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I will catch you next time. And in the meantime, go boom.